we hear big data, but we as, let's say, even college students or someone who's not worked on big data doesn't realize how big data could really get. Like, so what is big data? In college, we're so naive. We see 100,000 records and we're like, dude, this is big data. Number one piece of advice is go for it. Try your hand in everything. You are a student, you have very less responsibility. You're not forced by work to get deadlines done. Dude, don't focus on your GPA. It doesn't really matter. It's just a number.
Welcome to yet another episode of Beyond Conversations. Today, we have a special guest, Vihaan Nama, who has made significant strides in artificial intelligence and machine learning. From a research internship at NIT Trichy to a software engineering role at JPMorgan and an exciting stint as a Prism Developer at Samsung, Vihaan's journey is nothing short of remarkable. As an incoming AI grad student at Duke University and the creator of a Udemy course to assist students in their US graduate applications, his story is filled with valuable insights and experiences. Stay tuned as we explore his academic background, professional growth, and the invaluable lessons he has learned along his way. Let's dive in. So, hi, and welcome to IEEE's Pune's podcast, Beyond Conversations, Vihaan. Before we begin, could you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, hi Sakshi. Nice to meet you. I'm Vihaan Nama. So I'm currently a software engineer in JPMorgan Chase Co. I'm a software engineering. I'm a software developer 1 over there, and I recently graduated from RV College of Engineering, which is located in Bangalore, Karnataka. So yes, I've always been a computer science enthusiast, and for the previous years of my life, though maybe like the past 4 to 5 years, I've been quite into the field of artificial intelligence and machine learning as well. And I'm going on to do my master's in the same.
That's great to know, Vihaan. So we'll straight away dive into the questions. So can you provide a brief overview of your academic background and your journey to the field of artificial intelligence and machine learning?
Sure. So basically, I was a recently graduated from RV College of Engineering. I started my engineering in 2019 and I graduated in 2023. I graduated from the field of computer science and engineering. So at least in college, we always had like an overview of everything when it comes, like our teachers always kind of made us learn about different technologies like blockchain, web development, artificial intelligence, etc. And we always had a lot of research projects available in college and opportunities, and the teachers and fellow students as well as seniors always guided us for opportunities outside. So having explored a little bit in the field, I later on realized towards my 3rd and 4th year that I'm quite interested in the field of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I did a lot of research internships and industry internships in the same and did a lot of publications, etc. After graduating, I was able to bag an internship in JPMorgan Chase Co. as a software engineering intern, after which there was a performance-based conversion to a software developer 1 in the same role. Currently, I'm enrolled into pursuing a master's degree called Masters of Engineering in Artificial Intelligence for Product Innovation, which is going to be at one of the United States top universities known as Duke University. So yeah, and finally, to answer your question about like why machine learning, it was always a field that I was interested in. After gaining some knowledge about the rest, I learned about the breadth, few different like blockchain, web dev, AI. And I chose AI as my field of study because I was quite interested in that, and that's what resonated with me.
Okay, Vihaan, that's really great. Moving ahead with your research internships, how did you come across the opportunity for your research internship at NIT Trichy in AIML? And like, was it through any networking platform or through any online platform or through any other means?
Sure. So in my 3rd year of undergraduate college, 2nd to 3rd year, I was the software lead of the club Frequency, which is a club, technical club in my college, which is the Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning Club. So over here, our core team members, we often sat down together and talked about various internships available in the field, various internships for us, as well as the students of the club what research experiences can we grant our students, what internships, what opportunities in the field, in the industry could we help our students with. So over here, one day in our conversation, one of my fellow core team members, he was discussing about how the previous year he had cold emailed all the top universities in India, asking all the professors, like at least he said around 100 or 150 emails, asking about potential research opportunities, research internships. And I was surprised when he told me he actually landed one, and he was able to even publish a research paper on the same. So being quite interested and knowing that I wanted to improve my profile for my master's, I asked him for the contact. And when I started speaking with the professor kind of spoke to me about like what my interests are, why I want to do the research internship. It was a very informal conversation, but he was understanding my motivation behind it. And when he understood my motivation behind it, we did a lot of texting on WhatsApp, and we moved over to call. And he kind of had a small informal interview with me about like what's my experience in AI. Do I know the field, or am I completely new? And yeah, so then he offered me the position for the same. And that's how I started off. And I was able to do 2 internships over there, each one spanning 4 months.
Oh, that's great. So your circle played a huge role and your mentors played a huge role in getting this internship, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's great. So moving ahead with your experience at NIT Trichy itself, how did your research internship there shape your professional and academic growth in AI/ML, which included your initial expectations or the key projects or the skills that you gained there, and what were the challenges that you had to overcome from there?
Sure. So that's a loaded question. So firstly, let's start off with the projects that I worked on over there. So over here in NIT Trichy, I was part of 3 projects, which were recommender systems, which is a class of machine learning, artificial intelligence system, which recommend actions based on users' previous actions and requirements. So I worked on 3 types of recommendation systems. The first one being to recommend parts of a software requirement specification document to users who are trying to create it. So you would input your systems requirements, and it would recommend parts of an SRS document for you. The next would be recommending tags and labels on videos. So that was a system wherein you upload a video, and I was able to recommend like particular tags and labels of the items in the video. And thirdly was a system to recommend disaster tweets and disaster newsfeed documents to people in need. So if there's a disaster going on nearby and somehow it realizes that you're in the range of a calamity, it would recommend a tweet or disaster document so you're aware and alert. So my initial expectations were I didn't know what I was stepping into. It was my first research internship with a top level institute. Up until this point, I had worked with a lot of internships within my college itself and within like some kind of startups, etc. But what I expected was that I knew NIT Trichy was a top university in India. So I knew that their academic experience and academic research is going to be top notch. It's going to be one of the best in India. So I was quite intrigued when I joined the program itself. The professor spoke to me, and he didn't just have 1 or 2 research projects going on. He had plenty. He had 20 to 25 projects going on simultaneously with him, and he allowed me to choose which I wanted to be a part of. So he literally ran me through the ideas and helped me and allowed me to choose what I wanted to be a part of. So that was something that I was really astounded by, because it was like I understood the breadth of the research that was going on in these top universities that sometimes people coming from tier 2 colleges are kind of blinded to. Yeah. So when it comes to skills gained, I gained a lot of skills from this. For example, technical writing was one of them. All the 3 projects that I worked on, we went on to publish our research in like top conferences, in international conferences in India, which was Scopus indexed, and there was Sprinter conferences. So we had to make sure, especially since we're doing from NIT Trichy, we had to make sure the paper was of a particular quality. So up until then, I had already published research, but I never went into understanding like exactly how research had to be published. For example, literature surveys, which was one huge domain that I really learned in the field in NIT Trichy. They taught me how to go online, figure out baseline models that already exist. They helped me figure out how to write down and summarize in 2 to 3 lines what, like going to 20 papers, 10 to 20 papers in 2 to 3 lines, each paper summarizing what it does, what results they achieved, which is something I had not done until then. And it also helped me with technical jargon, which was like when we speak, when we write, we often speak informally. And even but when we publish our papers and when we get stuff out there, we need to speak technically because the people who are reading it are often not just laymen. They already know stuff in the field, and it's always better to speak with technical jargon to give more specificity into your work. So another thing a skill that I gained from here was structuring of papers. Like that's this part of the technical writing, especially like how do you started abstract keywords, your related verbs, proposed system architecture. How do you define a paper from top to bottom, giving giving a reader more information as he reads and wanting him to continue reading your paper to understand what you've done. So there's a few more things except technical writing that I learned in this internship. One being evaluating my model against various baseline models that are already available on the scene. Up until then, in college, we do a project, we just give it to the teacher and say, hi, our project is complete. But we need to it's important to understand that there are various models already available on the market. So figuring out how your model compares to the rest is something that I had looked over in the past, but I was made to look into in this internship, which really helped me. Next, I was since it was my second or third year of college, I was getting into machine learning. I often viewed my models based on accuracy. Like that's what everyone is told, right? In college, like make sure your model has good accuracy. But through NIT Trichy, I understood like there are various other metrics that we can evaluate our models on. Like for example, in IT, we worked on recall, precision, F measure, accuracy, and another metric, I'm forgetting the name. And the next after that would be learning how to create an architecture diagram. So in NIT Trichy, in the research internship, we didn't just focus on giving the model, but rather we focused on a whole product from top to bottom. So then also learning how to take that model, make it diagrammatically available for a user to understand. That's something that really helped me. And so next it kind of helped me shape my growth, etc. like in the field. So when it comes to coming back to your question, which the first part was like how it helped me shape my growth in the career in the field of AI and ML. It helped me understand. It was the first time I was able to understand a whole project from top to bottom. As I was mentioning, research projects, we often just put a model, but understanding what this helped me was understanding how you get from raw data to required output. So I was able to understand, how we scrape the data from the web, how we get data into our personal database, and how we integrate it with various other knowledge stores or other databases that are already available on the market. So like pretend there are 2-3 different sources, which how do you bring the data together and make it uniform? Then from there, I learned how to pre-process data, learned how to normalize it, learned how to enrich the data to make it more meaningful, then perform the required transformations if necessary. Then after which, this was for all 3 projects that I worked on, after which we passed the data to recommendation systems. And these recommendation systems gave us recommendations, but then you have to know how to rank your recommendation, which is the best recommendation, second best, third best, etc. So we delved deep into various ranking metrics. And once we got the recommendations in a ranked format, how do we go ahead and make it in a human readable format where a human can understand it? So converting this to a human readable format, then producing the required output. And once we have the required output, it helped me understand, once we have this output, how do we compare it to various other baseline models that are already available on the market? And not just tabulating your data like my system did this, someone else's system did this, but rather also visualizing it. So making graphs, seeing like how their system worked against yours, etc. So this is something that a research internship at NIT Trichy really helped me understand. The whole process of top to bottom, how you take from data available on the web in various different formats to an outputted result for a user, as well as this comparison to different other models available. Yep.
Yeah. So, and regarding another question regarding the NIT Trichy experience, Vihaan, were there any challenges that you had to overcome?
Challenges that I had to overcome in NIT Trichy was that it firstly a when you're working, especially when you're working from home and like you're doing your stuff on remotely. Another, you have to be available when your professor is available. So managing college and this internship, and I had a few other things going on parallelly. So time management and making sure our schedules were syncing was a bit of a challenge. And in the beginning, when I was getting into the research, it was quite advanced for me because I hadn't worked on something like this. So it was a steep learning curve. But once I got through that learning curve, the rest of it became quite natural. Like it was just an initial learning curve, I would say.
Okay. So, like, would you give any advice to undergrad students who are right now struggling with their time management skills? Any advice from your side?
Sure. So for undergraduate students who are currently struggling with time management, I would say the best thing that I used to do personally, because I used to manage college, it was very demanding our university, along with research internships, industry internships, personal growth, personal fitness, like this, that, like that's something that I was into. So managing all of this was quite difficult. So every day, like a piece of advice that I have learned over the years, like that I was in my college, was when someone, I think it was on the internet that I found this one piece of advice, which was the previous night before you go to bed, plan out your next day. So before you go to bed the previous night, sit down, take to 10 to 20 minutes and plan out, okay, this is the to-do list that you have to do. Because in the morning, the minute you wake up, you have, okay, I need to get XYZ ready and done with. And you already know your day planned out in your head. Especially if you're balancing a lot side by side, this is something that would really help.
Yeah. So,
Personally.
true. Like, keeping a to-do list makes your day easy. That's true.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, we'll move ahead with your experience at JPMorgan. So, to
Sure.
begin with, what were the strategies or the resources that you found most effective in securing your internship at JPMorgan?
Sure. So when it comes to what I did in JP Morgan first, like I was there as a software engineering intern, after which I mentioned I went to software developer. So for the strategies of getting through the recruitment process, I would say number one would be going through past experiences online. There are so many resources available online that as college students we don't really take use of. There are various Medium articles, Geeks for Geeks, Glassdoor, etc., where people put both. For example, if you want to look into salary expectations, you want to look into recruitment expectations, you want to look into interview round, all that data is available online and making use of LinkedIn. So the strategies that I used after this was a campus placement firstly. College. So JP Morgan, the way it works is they come to campuses, they give you a list of like requirements. Those who are eligible then get placed into an India-wide hiring. So I think for our batch there was over 50,000 applications India-wide, and 700 students got selected for the internship. That was the conversion. So it was really, so knowing these metrics, especially from seniors, it kind of freaked me out at the beginning. I was like, oh god, how would I crack this? But what really helped me was knowing what I was walking into, knowing the different like things, what they're gonna ask in each round, knowing that like okay, this round, this is how I have to answer. So how that came about was going through LinkedIn, figuring out my seniors, especially my alumni network, who have already cracked this role, and asking them what they did to crack it. They gave me a lot of helpful tips, and especially upon that, looking at Medium articles. So the important tips that I would give to students who are trying for their first job would be firstly to dress appropriately for any interview, anything that, because your first impression matters more than you realize. And in JP Morgan, the recruitment process was quite different. Rather than having like, we had a data structure run and on algorithm run, like the online coding run, we had that. But more than having focus at interviews on that, we were made to sit in a 36-hour long overnight hackathon. So it was like they would give you a problem statement. 36 hours later, they would pair you up with random people, not your friends. Random people in India, they would just give you their thing. We made WhatsApp groups and then give you a problem statement. 36 hours later, they expected a product and they would monitor your progress throughout. So they were there in the call, in your Zoom calls, understanding how you're speaking. So for this internship, like specifically, what really helped me was talking a lot, taking charge. So the employee from JPMorgan who was there in the round asked us who wants to be a team leader, putting my hand up and doing that. Then understanding that to impress a person, to impress, especially when you're in a hackathon and someone is viewing you, to impress them is not just to do. It's to do your part and delegate some work to other people as well. Make use of your resources. So that's something that really helped me out. That's the strategy that I use. And along with that, taking time out of your day, taking time out of your 36 hours, and maybe take a good 2 hours to plan your whole system, top to bottom, understand how different components are integrating with each other. So that's something that really helped me over there. And you also asked about the resources that I used to get this. So firstly, as I mentioned, was alumni network, Geeks for Geeks, Glassdoor, Medium articles, etc. And so for the skills, you also asked about skills, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So the skills I gained were writing production-ready code, which when I what I mean about this is that in college we, as I mentioned, we just give a project in. We don't care about, for example, how much time a project takes to compile and complete. But when you're in the industry, time is of essence. They care a lot about space complexity. They care a lot about time complexity, etc. If you can get in writing a Java process and it's taking 2 hours to execute, being able to see if you can optimize that down to 20 minutes, 30 minutes really helps. So being able to do that, that plays a very, very important role. Number two is the skill I gained was writing test cases. In college, we never focus on unit test cases, etc. But in the company, it really matters. Any industry, you need to test your code. So doing that. Thirdly would be agile development. When I mean agile development, I mean CI/CD pipelines, which is like continuous integration, continuous deployment. So as I said, in college, we take a project, we do all the coding, give the finished project to our teachers, to the person who is kind of evaluating us. But in the industry, how it works is you go to the clients, you ask the requirements, you integrate into your system, you deploy it. Then you ask them again, what are your next set of requirements? You integrate, and you go in small chunks, and you continuously integrate their requirements into your pipeline, and you continuously deploy it. So that's something that I really learned. And when it comes to technical skills, I was working on big data in the beginning, especially in my internship. So I worked on Spark, Hadoop, AWS, and I even got to learn niche technologies like Apache Airflow, etc., which I feel would really help me on later.
Yeah. So thank you, Vihaan.
Sure.
Yeah. So moving ahead with your experience at JPMorgan itself, you also worked there as an SDE intern, if I'm right?
SDE intern and a full time, yes.
Yeah. So, like, what was your inspiration to apply at JPMorgan?
Sure. So when it comes to why I decided to apply, so I'll be very honest with you. When I was in my second year of college itself, I knew I wanted to go for masters. Okay, I knew that it was in my head somewhere. It was that I wanted to get into AI and machine learning, and I wanted to go for my masters. So I was sitting in a seminar similar to this, like back in my college, and a senior had come in who had already got into a great university in the US, and he was talking about his experience. So over here, he mentioned one thing, which was when you're in college, yes, spread your feet, but don't spread yourself too thin. When you're there early on in your early years and you've decided that either you want that, you need to decide early on basically whether you want to apply for jobs and get a great placement after you graduate, or you want to go for masters, because these two routes are completely different to each other. One requires like the job requirement requires like grinding yourself on lead code, then learning operating systems, databases, computer networks, OOPS, etc. Like going through it in a lot of detail. While the other side, when you're trying for master's applications, rather requires you to look into research experiences, research opportunities, internships, papers, publications, etc. So he said that, you have two different branches and they go both ways. In your first year, you might be able to do a little bit of both, but towards your second year and onwards, you have to decide. So listening to this, I decided I wanted to go for my master's and I wanted to pursue that route. So when it came to inspiration to apply, I knew I wanted to get placed after college itself, but I wasn't focusing on lead code. Rather, I was focusing on development. So I spoke to seniors who had gone through the placement process, and I spoke to them, asked them, we had a lot of companies coming, the hundreds of companies coming to our college for placements. So I think there must be a few companies that focus on development rather than online coding. And my senior mentioned to me that a person who I was speaking to mentioned to me that there were two companies that came. One was Fidelity, one was Fidelity Investments, and one was JPMorgan Chase Co, which focused on development rather than online like coding, etc. So he said these are your two best options. So from that moment, I had in my head, especially in the beginning, in the end of second year itself, that these two companies I needed to crack either or because they focus on development. And so that was my inspiration to apply. And I was lucky enough to crack both the internships. I cracked Fidelity as well as JP Morgan. And I was able to then had the opportunity to choose had the freedom to choose one over the other. And another thing that when it came to college, they had a requirement of a particular GPA. And since I crossed that GPA percentage, I was able to apply. But I would advise students to also make sure that along with their study, rather they take masters or job requirement, make sure your GPA is above average because it will definitely help you in both senses.
Yeah, it's true. Like your GPA helps you a lot.
Exactly.
And yeah, having a plan and sticking to it always works, as you said.
Yep.
Yeah. So could you elaborate on your role as a software developer engineer at JP Morgan and what were your primary responsibilities and how did you navigate them?
Sure. So when I joined the team, I joined a team and we work on, it was a big data reconciliation team. Reconciliation is a financial term. So when I joined, the team was quite into migrating from like an on-premises application that was running to the AWS cloud. So over here, what I learned was we're ensuring that processes are up and running when you move them over. So usually people think that when you move from something from an on-premise to AWS, it's just a lift and shift. But no, there's another term in big data migrations called lift, tinker, and shift, which means that your application is probably not going to work the way it is working on one environment on a different environment. There are a lot of environment variables, environment properties, etc. that you need to change. At certain times, you even have to change the code itself. So you need to tinker with your code. So that's something that I really understood. Because migration currently is a big trend in industry where the cloud is becoming more popular. People want their systems that are working on premises to work well on the cloud as well. So taking this code, tinkering it so that it produces the same functionality as before, and then shifting it is something that I learned over there. And so when we came to this migration, I was put on the big data migration team. So it was the application that we had that was working on big data. So I was able to get a basics of Hadoop, understand Apache Spark, understand AWS environment, understand Apache Airflow, etc. So when it comes to navigating my responsibilities, it was like all this stuff was new. Migration was new, AWS, Apache Airflow, Hadoop, Spark, everything was new. So taking time out of your day, out of your working hours, you're working as a full-time employee, 9 to 10 hours per day. Taking time out of this to take up online courses to understand at least the basics. I know you're not going to get the business requirements of the business thing, but understand the basics of how these softwares work, like how does Spark work, how does Airflow work, a different process which you're not taught in the college usually. So taking my time out to do that is the one way that really helped me navigate. Along with this, the work environment in JP Morgan especially is very open. You have people in your team who are 20 years older than you, 10 years older than you, and you might even have a junior. I was an intern, but there was another intern who was like a third year intern, and I was my fourth. Minus one in junior to you. And it's such a nice open environment because everyone can approach anyone for help. If I know something that someone else does it, they can approach me for help. If I don't, I can approach. If I don't know something, I can approach even a junior or a senior who has experience in the field. So being well connected with your people around you and speaking up and actually asking for help is something that really helped me while I was pursuing my internship as a full-time employee currently. Every day going and asking someone like, how do I do this? What are the requirements? What do I need to learn, etc. That's something that I almost everyone uses on a daily basis to navigate their jobs.
That's a versatile experience, like working with people who are like in lesser than age than you. So it's great.
Exactly.
So what were some of the most valuable experiences or the projects that you worked on during your tenure as an SDE intern at JPMorgan?
Sure. So I can't really get into the project specifications because that's like company information. But in my first half of my time in JPMorgan, we were divided based on tech stack. So we were a team. Some people in the team were made to work on front end, some people work on back end, some people work on big data, some people work on AWS. So we were divided based on that. So I was in the big data and migration part of the team. So I was able to learn a lot of things like of how migration goes on, like etc. And I feel this is going to be very useful for AI competence as well, because especially when I'm working with big data, currently we have a lot of data. So learning how machine learning processes can compile data parallelly or process data train parallelly using Spark or GPUs, etc. We didn't use GPUs, but using Spark, etc. So that's something that I really learned. And I also learned the importance of parallel processing, as I just mentioned, which is like making sure if you're doing something routinely and sequentially, but you have so much data, dividing it into chunks and running the process parallelly so your time gets cut down by a lot. And upon this, also, I learned about parameter tuning because just like in machine learning, when you're tuning your parameters, in Spark also, you need to tune you have drivers, you have executors, etc. You need to tune your parameters, how much data they're going to take in, are they going to scale up, are they going to scale down, are they dynamically scaling? A lot of technical jargon I'm throwing out right now. But basically, understanding parameter tuning was something that really helped me, especially for a machine learning model as well, like machine learning experiences as well, because it helped me understand how one small change of just a single number that you kind of would realize before could really help a process go through much faster. So that through that first half of my experience, I was in depth understanding on big data, and towards the second half of my time in JP Morgan, we were then redivided as per business requirement. So then it became like you contact your clients. And if your client wants you to work on front end, you work on front end today. If your client wants you to do a development on back end, you work on back end today. So this really helped me get use of a lot of different technologies because I was able to work on front end, back end, middle tier, business logic, compiling data, etc. Here I mainly worked on Java, XML, Autosys, AWS, Oracle database, etc. So I would say my time in JP Morgan, the first half was involved into depth study, and the second was a breadth overview, which gave me a whole understanding, I would say. And as I mentioned earlier, about production system ready code. That's something that I learned a lot over here.
Okay, Vihaan. So moving ahead, how did your experience at JP Morgan shape your career trajectory and it influenced your decision to pursue your further studies in the AI?
Okay. So actually, my time in JP Morgan, it really helped me understand the need of artificial intelligence or stuff later on in life. I mean, later on in the technological field. The reason being, as I mentioned, I was in the big data team. So, we hear big data, but we as, let's say, even college students or someone who's not worked on big data doesn't realize how big data could really get. Like, what is big data? In college, we're so naive. We see 100,000 records and we're like, dude, this is big data. But no, in the industry, I was working on systems that ingested 10 to 15 billion or much more. Like I'm just putting on numbers, but actually much more data per day. Millions of records coming in per day. That was quite a nice understanding of how large data really could get. because you never have that visualization earlier on in life. So when I saw how large data could get, I saw a lot of raw data. I saw chunks and chunks and chunks of data. But what I noticed here was there was less information or less knowledge that is being extracted from this data. Rather, you were taking the big data and you're feeding it to your systems. They were doing required tasks, they're producing output. But there was so much knowledge to be gained. For example, patterns, for example, sequential, how data changes over time. At a particular time, might get more data, might get less data at a particular time. Understanding why this was, writing processes to extract information from data is something that I noticed was lacking in a JPMorgan, in any company, I would say, in the whole ecosystem, right? So when I was doing some more research on this personally, I noticed that this is not just a problem in one company, rather it was a problem in the whole field in general, that people had so much data, but they had less information from it. And with our new level of AI that's going on currently, like GPT-4, etc., the amount that these models can take in, amount of information these models can pull in is drastically increased. So what articles online said is that right now companies are going to be focusing on converting their data to knowledge. And once that data to knowledge conversion happens, and we have knowledge, and we have a lot of knowledge, is when our models can be trained much better. So I personally feel that in the field, ongoing currently, we are working on converting data to knowledge. And once this knowledge transfer has happened, the machine learning models are going to, and AI models are going to progress drastically. So I wanted to be the forefront of that technological revolution. When you're there in the front and you seeing that that we have knowledge, and on a daily basis, your models are getting smarter and smarter. So I wanted to be at the front of that. So that's where that's why it kind of helped me to choose AI as my field of study for masters, because and I was able to get an idea of a glimpse in the future where we're headed. And along with that, speaking to a lot of my senior officials like vice presidents, etc., in the company, everyone said that this is the time to learn. Once you're a little, like you're 23, 24 right now, that's the time you have to learn. But when you move on to 27, 28, 29, you are more focused on building like a solid foundation. So that time learning becomes a little more difficult. So they said, if you have a thing that you want to learn, go ahead and do it now. So that's something that really inspired me, both the first point that I mentioned and this, to get into the field of AI for masters.
Okay, Vihaan. So apart from that, you mentioned that you were a Prism developer at Samsung. So we'll move ahead with your experience over there. So,
Sure.
could you share the steps that you took to secure the opportunity as a Prism developer at Samsung?
Sure. Yeah. So, firstly, like about Samsung Prism, it was a internship research internship offered by Samsung Research Institute Bangalore, to top colleges in and around India, wherein what they did was they took various rounds of the rounds that are required, and once you were selected, they made a team of 4 to 5 people from your college. Then along with that, they added 1 to 2 faculty members from your college, and then they added 1 to 2 employees from their company, and you totally comprised of a team of 7 to 10 individuals. And then they gave you a problem statement, and our faculty mentors as well as employee mentors served as mentors. The students had to develop a viable solution for this problem statement. So they came to our campus. They were linked with our campus. I already knew about this internship because I was on LinkedIn the year previous, and I saw most of our seniors. This is during COVID, so most of our seniors were getting into this, and I was quite curious as to what it is. And our seniors told us it'll happen for you next year as well. So it did come for us the next year. So I was quite prepared that I wanted to do this because it would really help me get an industry level problem overview. So when it comes to what the rounds were like, there was an online coding round. I would say lead code, easy to medium level questions. It was your second or third year, right? So they won't ask you hard questions, obviously. So once you cleared this round, they sent a list of students to our faculty, and they allotted problem statements to each faculty member, and they allowed the faculty to choose students that they wanted in their teams. So that's the process that went on.
So could we say that it was kind of a mentor-mentee research program, right?
Definitely, and
Yeah.
as well as teamwork, because you have 5 to people in your team, so working with another person really helped as well. Yeah.
Yeah, true. So moving ahead to our next question, can you walk us through the process of applying and then interviewing for the role of a Prism developer at Samsung? Like, were there any kind of interview rounds that were there for this role?
Sure. There was no interview rounds. There was a GPA cutoff, and there was like an online coding round, as I mentioned. So once you clear both of those, they give the problem statements to the faculty members. At least this is how it works in our college. I'm not sure about any other, but for us, they gave the problem statements to faculty members, and they gave the faculty members a list of students, and they said choose 4 to 5 people for your team. So what really helped me here was I had a good connect with my teachers in my college. So people knew what I was capable of. People knew that my interest in the field of AI. People understood that this person would be a good fit for X project. So having that good connect really helped me. Like maintaining a good connect with your faculty members not only helped me for this, but also later on when you speak, it helped me for recommendations for masters as well. So having good connect with the faculty is something that's really underrated, but it really helped. So once we got this list, I mean, because I had a good connect with a few teachers, I was offered a position in 2 different projects. One was for recommendation systems, and one was for natural language processing. And there were 2 different problem statements. And since I had a good connect, I had the liberty to choose which one I wanted to be part of. And I had already done some work into natural language processing. So I was kind of intrigued. This will be my first, this at this point of second year, I think. This will be my first research and industry experience available. So I really wanted to understand what recommendation systems were about, because I had no idea about it at that point. So that's why I chose the recommendation system one, and we formed a team. I was able to recommend some people to faculty to add to our team. So I think good connect is something that really helped here.
Having a good connect and like leaving the remarks of what you do is what helped you, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And like, what were the skills or the experiences do you think that were the most crucial for making you a competitive candidate for this position?
So as I mentioned, I don't want to repeat, but as I mentioned, something that like I'll just jot through the points really quickly. Something that really helped me was networking, as I just mentioned, went through networking with faculty and students. Number 2 was having an idea of how to code, because data structures algorithm round was there, so you had to have that level of understanding. Again, there was a GPA cutoff, so making sure my GPA was above average and or above the requirement, but under mean average. And the next point would be already having delved into the fields of AI and ML helped me gain a quicker understanding into recommendation systems. Even though I hadn't worked on it, I was able to gain a quicker understanding, rather than if I had not worked on it at all, it might have taken me much more time. So this is some skills that I had that helped me over here. Make a competitive candidate. Sorry.
Okay, Vihaan. And could you describe a specific project or a challenge that you worked on at Samsung as a Prism developer, and like how it contributed to your professional growth?
Sure. So again, cannot get into the specifics of the project. But what I can tell you is that we worked on an utterance recommendation system for Samsung Bixby. That was my problem statement. So it was personally the first time I was given an industry level problem statement. So it was like there was a lot of things that went into what an industry problem statement get in. They have strict requirements that you need to achieve metric 1, 2, 3. You need to achieve X value, Y value, Z value, etc. to be able to deem your project as successful. If you didn't achieve these metrics by the end of your time in there, your project was you get a certificate of participation. But if you did achieve these metrics, you would get a certificate of excellence. Being mentioned this to us at the beginning itself. So certificate of excellence was something that is very valuable in the field. A person who has exceeded expectations and has been able to complete a problem statement as per the requirements and in a timely manner. People who weren't able to do this receive certificates of participation. So we were lucky enough, like our team, we worked a lot. We were lucky enough to receive a certificate of excellence. So, but it's the first time for all of us in our team working with industry level problems. So gaining this was something of challenge, like understanding how to achieve this. And for the rest of the challenges that I faced during this time was that number one, the company wasn't willing to part with their actual data because that was their proprietary and their own personal stuff that they were not willing to let go of because of various security concerns. So we were made to do a project on various online open source data that was available. And then later the company mentioned that they would perform transfer learning onto their data internally. So we had to do it like this. So first the challenge was finding a data set online that would mimic what a company was requiring, which was completely abstract because you online data sets that are available have a completely different. So being able to connect one to the other is something that was quite challenging for us to do. And then it was quite difficult to find an online data set in the first place. Like, once you get a data set, finding how to connect one that this item is equivalent to that item in their data set. That is one thing. First was to find a data set itself. So we had to work a lot into visualizing what, speaking of their mentor, their employee mentors, understanding what their data set actually had, and then understanding what our data set had and visualizing what could be equivalent comparisons, etc. And along with this, another thing that was hard to manage was I was maintaining, again, college side by side. So often you have meetings with their employees and it's after their working hours. So after their working hours, they take some time out and they speak to you. So this meetings, sometimes we had it at 9:30 in the night, 10:30 in the night. And the next day we had a deadline at college. So it was quite difficult to do a time management on that aspect. But you get used to it after some time.
Yeah, true. So my next question to you is that what advice would you give to the undergrad students interested in pursuing opportunities in this industry, particularly in the roles related to software development and the technology?
Okay. So that question, I would say number one piece of advice is go for it. Try your hand in everything. You are a student. You have very less responsibility. Like, you're not forced by work to get deadlines done. You're very less. You just need to pass your examinations to a good degree, and that's your main responsibility as a student. Taking care of yourself, obviously. So having this is the prime time that you have to just go for it, understanding and picking up anything and everything that's available to you. Many colleges in India, we were lucky enough to get some stuff to our college, like campus placement, Samsung, JPMorgan, etc. Some colleges don't receive this, which is a real problem that's there in India as well. So what I feel is that there are so many internship opportunities, research opportunities, industry opportunities that are available online. So going through, connecting with but not just seniors from your college, people, anyone on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very underrated tool. Connecting with people over there who have followed the same path that you aspire to do, connecting with them, sending out cold messages, cold emails, etc., is something that really helped me because I was able to understand about a lot of different internship opportunities that were available online. To run a few off my head, like, I don't know if people know about this, but during my time, there was Google Summer of Code was one of them that people were working on. There was Microsoft Engage, which is something people are working on. There was Google Step, which was something that some people were working on. And there was even an internship called My Tax Internship, which a few people in my college even received, wherein they literally paid you a stipend and they sent you to Canada for 3 months, where you worked with they set up your housing, everything, and you go to Canada for 3 months and you work with a professor and do a research internship there. And it's available to all students. So these are just opportunities that you have to go out there and grab, figure out, go out and grab. So that's something that I would really encourage all students to do, regardless of if they come from a tier 1, tier 2, even tier 3, or whatever college they come from, these opportunities are available for everyone as long as you possess the technical skills to be able to live up to the requirements. These are open ground for everyone, and I would say this is something you should definitely grab on for if your aim in life in the next few years is to go for your masters. Because for masters, they don't just focus on like your one work experience or your GPA. Rather, yes, GPA plays a high role. Yes, work experience plays a high role. But they want to see a person who's a holistic candidate. They want to see someone who is able to gain and grasp things at a go. They want to find a person who is a go-getter. So I would advise you to go and get, if you know what I'm saying, right? Like go out there, pick out those internships, and then show the college in your statement of purpose, in your stuff, that he is a person or she is a person, and there are people who are going to go and get, we don't have to focus on that, because colleges want someone who can get without having being like, they don't want to sit and tell you like this is your thing, that is your thing. They want to have that proven experience for a person who can go and do stuff. So that is something that I would say. And another piece of advice which I would say is that there are, again, to emphasize again, there are roadmaps, there are experiences, there are articles online. There are literally roadmaps on how to get into, let's say, Google Summer of Code, how to get into Google Summer of Code, what a step by step, or how to get into JPMorgan step by step. Then these are all available online. The internet is a very underutilized place when it comes to what college students actually utilize it for. And going on, figuring out these and figuring out people's experiences, this is something that I would really advise people on.
So summing it up, it is like making good use of internet and then like showing up yourself there and just going and grabbing the opportunities is what you would advise to the students.
Yes, as well as connecting with your seniors and
Yeah.
understanding of how they got their opportunities, and then
Yeah.
following the same path. Because you don't need to reinvent the wheel, you know. The wheel is
Yeah.
already invented. You just need to know how to make it. If you're making a car, you know how to make the wheel. The wheel is already invented. So something is already proven. Go ahead and do what something is already proven rather than reinventing something yourself. You know?
You even talked about cold mailing, right? So can you brief about it? Like, how did cold mailing help you in any ways?
Yeah, okay. So when it comes to cold emailing, something that really helped me was being able to bridge the gap, as you mentioned, between both the student and the person who is wants to hire you. When you're applying, you need to realize that you are not losing anything. When you're a student, you have nothing. During your application process, you have nothing. You either might get accepted, or you have nothing. So you're not losing anything that you already have, except time, which I feel as students we have a lot of time. If we get it, we get the great internship that we cold emailed and we got it, or we're left back to the same place as we were. We're not going below. So that's something that people need to understand for cold emailing. Yes, it is a step out of people's comfort zone, reaching out. I understand that, there are various type of people out there. Some of us are introverts, some of us are extroverts, etc. But one amazing thing about cold emailing is that the person you're approaching, the person you're cold messaging, even cold messaging or emailing, they know nothing about you. So you can portray yourself in the best possible light. You don't have to worry about judgment. You don't have to worry about anything. Portray yourself in the best possible light and see what clicks. There's a saying, like when you want to make sure if your pasta is cooked or if spaghetti is cooked, you take the spaghetti and you throw it at the wall. If it sticks, it's cooked. If it doesn't, it falls down. So it's the same way for cold emailing. You take everything, you just throw it out there. See what sticks. A lot of it might fall to the ground. A lot of it might not work. But see what sticks. And when it sticks, is something that you can actually approach. And as well as bridging the gap in this hasn't happened for me, but for some people I know it has happened, where in the beginning they get rejected, but a year later on, the person you cold emailed remembers that, okay, let's say Vihaan was someone who cold emailed me. Let me go back to him and let me ask him if he's still available for this opportunity. So that connect is always there. They always remember you in the back of their mind. And along with this, I would say that it helps you gain a network, because even if someone is not willing to give you an opportunity, most of the people are willing to help you out and understand what is required for you to gain an opportunity. So it'll help you a lot in your understanding of the field, help you a lot in your understanding of your own technical abilities, etc. So those are some benefits that I felt was a full email, cold messaging, or even cold approaching. That is something that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really helpful. So you also talked about your master's. So like what motivated you to pursue a graduate degree in AI at the Duke University after gaining such a vast industry experience?
Yeah, so I was always intrigued into getting into the field of AI since like the second year of my college. So I had the opportunity of applying for masters towards my third year end itself, like without any work experience, graduating from college and starting the degree immediately. But at that time, so this time probably is around your third year of college during October or November is when those graduate applications open and they allow you to apply even though you're not finished your college. So I was thinking of originally of applying then, but by the time I got near the I had finished my competitive examinations. So by the time of getting that application window, I just thought to myself that I had already so much left in store. I had already got my JPMorgan internship, and I knew that there was a possibility of getting converted to full time. I knew that I was still in line into an NIT Trichy internship. I have personally I've published 7 research papers. So I three to four of them were being in, like I was writing them with NIT Trichy or like from other personal work that I was doing. So I was writing them. They were not yet published. But there was so much in my application that would help me out that I could not mention in my application at that point, because you cannot mention about anything until you've done it. You can't say that I'm about to do this. That is not really good when you're applying. So when I approached my third year, I was like, I had most of the stuff already planned out and was already in the books to be written down, but it hadn't materialized yet. So I knew that if I applied a year later, I would get a JP Morgan internship on my resume. I would be finished with my papers. It would be accepted. It's not published, at least be accepted by then. I had a full-time experience that if I got selected for through conversion, I would be accepted for that. I would have received my internship letters from NIT Trichy and stuff like that. So I knew that my application would really help afterwards. So one more reason that I applied after the industry experience was because once you graduate, once you graduate from your master's, you have a higher chance of getting accepted if someone doesn't have to teach you something from scratch. The job market, as everyone knows right now, is pretty bad. So companies want people who they don't have to train from the ground zero, if you know what I mean. So having that experience, I thought would really help me out. And sorry, and later on, I also realized that in India, most of our colleges, yes, we have practical, like we have projects for each course, etc. But I really felt that we focus a lot on theory, which is really helpful. Not saying that's bad or anything. We focus a lot on theory, but I wanted to go to a master's, and in masters in the US, we focus more on application. So I didn't have that gap. I was more focused on theory. I needed to be focused into application. So I felt industry experience here would really help me because I would get a practical understanding of how things should be implemented. So when I go for masters, I can ease it, if you know what I mean.
So yeah,
Yeah,
so your eagerness to learn things and the experience that you had initially gained was the motive behind applying for the masters, right?
exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So another question is that how do you anticipate your previous experiences, both in the research and industry, will influence your approach to the graduate studies at the university that you have applied to?
Yeah. So, firstly, Duke University, being one of the top universities in the country, attracts students from the best of the best from various different countries and cultural backgrounds, etc. So often, when students go to top universities, even though they're accepted, they have a little bit of like imposter syndrome, where it's like, am I really good enough for this? I have got placed here, but am I really good enough? So I cannot answer what it will help me in, but I can answer how I feel it will help me. Is number one, having this research, having industry experience, having papers, having good recommendations and good connections with your teachers, and having a great statement of purpose, CV, and scores, which are all the factors that you're judged on for your application, really helped me get Duke in the first place. So that is one thing that's already helped me out over there. They say hard work, you might not realize the instant benefit of the hard work that you're putting in, but sometime it will help you. Regardless, you might not realize it, but even years down the line, it might help you. So when I was sitting doing these research internships, industry experiences, etc., it came to a point where I was like being honest, thinking to myself, like, is there a final thing for this? Is this much work that I'm putting in going to help me? And years down the line, it has helped me. It has helped me get into some of the best universities. So that is something that already helped me in. And what I feel it's going to help me in college is that I know what to expect. When you're approaching something from an industry point of view, when you're approaching something from a research point of view, you have something in the field known as definition of done. What is considered as a done product. For every person, it varies. For a research internship, your definition of completing or get definition of done changes. For industry, even for industry, various people might consider what definition of done is and what it changes. So I have that experience of getting things done in both environments. So that I feel, and I'm hoping that it's going to help me out at Masters, because the course I've applied for is Master of Engineering in Artificial Intelligence for Product Innovation. So it is it's more of a industry-oriented Masters, but we also have research work involved. So knowing how to tackle both those fields is something that's going to help a lot. Then number two, like, since I've worked in stuff, I understand I'm not starting at ground zero. So even during this time, like I have I've been accepted to my master's. I'm yet to start, let's say, in August. Even during this time, spending time, senior people who have networked with have told me that, spend this time and revise over your basics, because, when we started working in the field, we tend to forget our basics of machine learning, basics of deep learning, stuff like that, that our older person we had in the third year of college for. We've not worked on it for quite some time. So spend some time revising these concepts, because once you get to your master's, you won't start from scratch. And understanding how models should be implemented from bottom to top is something that's really going to help me with my previous research experiences, because I know how we could take data from the web, scrape it, and then get it out to a required output. And lastly, having these internships, what I feel is going to benefit me a lot in network, because these connections were created, and we forge connections through internship spaces and industry work, that people now have a good understanding of you. So these connections, even if they might not help me immediately, but will help build stuff later on. What I've noticed is connections, the person you're connected to sometimes might not be the right person, but they can introduce you to their connections, which is something that's really going to help. So that's where I feel that research and industry experiences, and doing a lot of them, is really going to help for further studies and masters.
Yes, Vihaan. And like, what advice would you give to the undergrad students who are aspiring to follow a similar career path based on your journey and the experiences that you had?
Okay. Yeah. So my advice, I have a lot of advice, if you don't mind, because
Never.
I wish I had got advice where, like, clear cut out advice before. So as I mentioned when I said go for it in the previous time, go for everything. So that's number one, go for everything you're given. And number two, main piece of advice is reach out. There are hundreds of people who've done something already, and I said you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You need to reach out to people. So those are the main two pieces of advice, and there's a lot more that I would like to speak about. So in your, this is more niche, but in your first 2 years, especially if you're a college student, in your first 2 years of college, what I felt worked for me was, firstly, don't specialize immediately. Take your first 2 years, explore the breadth, regardless of the field you're in. I was in computer science. So for me, I explored first 2 years. I did an internship on blockchain at a startup. I did a web development internship. I did some work in AI ML. I took various courses online. I made personal projects on operating systems, like made an operating bootloader myself, etc. So take your time and explore dip your feet into every field. Don't need to make a beautiful, like amazing project in your first 2 years of university. Rather, focus on getting an understanding of what each domain under your field entails. So this is something that really helped me out. Then when you're in your second, like your third or fourth year of college, sorry, your second half of university, you have an understanding of what each field entails. You know what you like, you know what you don't like. So your next big thing is going to be focusing on your GPA. There are a lot of people in college who tell you, dude, don't focus on your GPA. It doesn't really matter. It's just a number. It's just a number, etc. And I was a little bit taken for like I followed this advice in the beginning, but like I never neglected my GPA. It was never like bad, but I could have done a lot more focus on this, which is something that I would tell a lot of students to. Don't listen to someone who says your GPA is just a number. After you graduate, it's not going to pay dividends back to you, but rather it will. Because when applying for masters, what I noticed was the biggest criteria that they were looking for in a student was a good GPA. This being because they're foreign universities. They need, they don't, in India, we might know, IIT, NIT, tier 1, tier 2. We might know RV College of Engineering, tier 2 college. We might know of these names. But if you look into a perspective of an admission officer, they don't tend to keep track of hundreds of countries, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. They don't know anything. But what they do is they tend to generalize candidates. There are some universities in India which throw GPAs, some universities in India which are very strict on GPAs. But from a foreign point of view, they don't know this. So they think one is one, like one GPA is equal to the other. So this is where I would say focus on your GPA, because if your university throws a GPA as giving a great GPA, amazing for you. If your university is one that's super strict and with your GPAs, then that's something you have to focus on to get a good GPA, because you're competing with people who are from all walks of life, and you're not just competing with people from India, you're competing with people from all over the world. And who knows, someone in X country, their university might literally just give a GPA out. It's the real world we're talking about. So this is a main criteria, a main cutoff factor for, even though the universities don't explicitly say that, we care about a GPA, but when you're going through the application process, there are various Reddit channels, etc., that like grad admissions, r/grad school, where people keep talking about their experiences in the field. Everyone says GPA matters, because admissions officers don't say it explicitly on the application that we care, that there's just a cutoff GPA, but often you see the people with great GPAs are the ones who have better rides through the application process. So that's where I would say that your GPA pays dividends back to you. And number two, when you're like currently, I am applying for RA and EA roles in universities, and sometimes they have forms. And pretend, let's just take for example, I'm applying for a TA in machine learning. So a question literally in the form written, have you taken machine learning have you taken this course in your undergrad? And if yes, mention the name of the course, mention the teacher who took it for you, and mention the grade you achieved in this course. So there, even after application, my undergrad GPA still matters. My undergrad grade still matters in getting a position here. So that matters. And also, when you're applying for it, this works both ways. Even if you're applying for a job, when it comes to interview rounds, your interviewer is going to see your resume. If they see yes, GPA might not be a criteria on there, but if they see a bad GPA, it's just a first impression, and first impression either opens or closes many doors for people. So having that good number over there would be a great first impression. Having a bad number would entail your interviewer asking you, why did you score less? So even though it's not a strict criteria, which is why people say it's just number, it doesn't matter. In the back end, implicitly, it does matter. So I would say focus on your GPA. I'm sorry, I'm going way too deep into that. Yeah, so the next point would be getting done with your competitive examinations early. Your GRE and your TOEFL, TOEFL, I think in my time, I'm not sure if it changes on later, but for my time, it was valid for 2 years, and your GRE is valid for 5 years. So yes, so as I said, GRE has 3 year, I mean a 5 year time that it's valid for, and your TOEFL has 2 years time where it's valid for. So that's for my time. So getting done with these examinations early, because in case you want to retake your examination, number one, you have time to retake it, and number two, you can focus on the actual part of your application on the later stages. When what I noticed is we are have a lot of, when you're applying for college, you often find a lot of people who are doing the process with you. And the people who hadn't taken their examinations early were struggling because they had to write their SOPs, do their grad admissions process, then also study for these examinations. It became, and manage a job, it became a lot. So getting done with it early really helps. And often people are confused, like, if I take it 5 years ago, is my score going to be weighted? But I would is it going to be less weightage than taking it recently? The universities have a expiry date for a reason. If your score is valid for 5 years, and you took your examination yesterday or you took it 5 years ago, they weigh the score the same because they're given you a range for a reason. So don't worry about that. So yeah, get done with your examinations early. Next point would be just to reiterate, network, cold email a lot helps you for masters, because for me, my two dream colleges were Duke and Carnegie Mellon. So I reached out to people at both universities, sent them, made a connect on LinkedIn. Once we had a connect, I spoke to them, asked them, could we jump on a call, jump on a coffee chat, jump on anything that's possible, and being able to speak to them for 10 to 15 minutes, pick their brain, ask them what helped them for their applications. And some people weren't willing to do so. So for them, I asked them if they're willing to answer questions online. Most of them said yes. So having 10 to 15 questions, draft it out. And yes, it might seem by a lot, but approach a person nicely. Say that, hey, I know it's a lot, but I have quite a few doubts. Approach and send it to them. And after getting into Duke, I am seeing on LinkedIn, a lot of people are reaching out to me. So that's just the way the world works. It just turns you always reach out to the person above you. Someone who's aiming to be where you are reaches out to you. So that is something that really helped me in my application process, because seniors really helped me understand what needed to be focused on my SOPs, what needed to be focused, what point, because when you're applying for your recommendations, your professor won't remember off the top of your head who you are and everything you've done. So you need to highlight for them that I've done X, Y, Z with you. So having your senior tell you how you need to approach a professor, how you need to build a connect with them, that's something that really, really helped. And what point you should ask your professor to include in his LOR or his or her LOR. That's something that really helps. So yeah, network well, cold message, cold email, everything, as I told you exactly before. And number two is, the last point, is be willing to part with your time. Your application process is going to be some of the most hectic times of your life, because you are managing, either you're managing college and a job. If you're not, then you have a little more time. But if you are, you're managing college and a job. You're managing getting your research publications published in case you have them ready and getting them accepted into conferences. You're managing your competitive examinations and their scores, sending it to the universities, following up on that. You're managing that. You're managing getting your applications to a particular order. You're managing writing your SOPs, submitting your recommendation requests to your faculty members and following up with them on a daily basis. Like, hi, sir, ma'am, have you uploaded my LOR? Or going, for me, it was, I need to approach the page front, so can you please upload it? Then when I had a page front connect, they said, yes, sure, we'll upload it. So doing that, getting your transcripts in order. So that was a major thing. It takes around 15, 20 days to get them compiled and then getting them signed by people that's required, getting them in order. Then lastly, every college I noticed had, like most of the top colleges had their, except from the personal statement or SOP or this, they had their own essay questions that was available on the portal that you only get to know once you log into the portal. So you log into the portal and you get it like, please, for example, just an example question. In 300 words or less, explain your work in volunteering to society. So let's say, so if you don't have that answer ready, but you have to sit and type it out, and it's different for each college. So you're managing a lot. There are X number of things that you're doing simultaneously, parallelly together. So you need to be willing to part with your time. That means staying up late, working late, and it also means scheduling and keeping track of what you need to get done on a daily basis. Once you have that sorted out on a daily basis, is what's really going to help you. So this was a lot, but these were my takeaways for people who are applying.
Yeah, sure. It was actually lots of helpful advice that you give. My last question regarding your master's is that could you walk us through the application process that you had to go through?
Sure. So my application process that I had to go through, towards, I would say, August to October is when your portals open for the next year's admissions, right? So by this time, I would tell a person to be done with approaching your recommenders. Number two, getting done with a almost complete SOP, getting done with college-specific requirements, because each college requires a different customization for your SOP. You need to tailor your SOP per college. So getting done with college-specific requirements for per SOP, and done with the competitive examinations. So you need to be done with this kind of stuff before. Once the application portal opens, I would recommend students to open their create their account as early as possible, because it does mention a date when the account was created. So I'm not sure if this is really a criteria, but if you would not want a person who's looking through your profile to see that you've done something in the last minute. So do that, and make sure your application is complete. When I mean complete, focus on the small details. Like, for example, in your resume, having a footer that says this is at page number 1, page number 2 in your CV, adding your email out there, adding your different links to where they can access you, or on your SOP, adding your name as a header to each page. They're tiny things that really go a long way. So, so going through my application process by August, October, finished up with what I mentioned. Then we open our profiles. We create our profiles. We open our things, and we see the requirement per college. We be super careful over here, because understand what program you're applying to. I remember I was applying to, I think it was Georgia Tech, and in the haste of the situation, I purposely clicked a degree that was supposed to be for bachelor students who are converting over to masters. So it was not applicable for me, and my recommenders had already submitted the recommendation for that degree. So it became a little bit like I was super last minute. Like I reached out, I'm like, they asked for a bachelor's ID, and that was towards the end of the application. And I was like, I don't have this ID, and it was like 3 days left for application, and they reached out to me and they were like, you've applied for the wrong program. This is not for you. So I had to, in 3 days, I had to run back and approach my recommender again. Can you please submit it again, make a new application, figure out there was some new small essays that were required. So write that again. And only 3 days left. So that was a small mishap on my part. So what I would say is that once a student opens a profile, go through the profile, go through the application process from beginning to end. Don't fill out anything. Go through all the steps, read everything. Make sure you're applying to the right thing. Make sure you don't make mistakes, and make sure that you follow the requirements. Sometimes they say upload your personal statement, and it's in of 1,000 words or less, but upload a PDF. So on PDFs, if you've not read that 1,000 words or less, sometimes you can upload a PDF of like even 4 pages, 5 pages, which could be 2,000 words, let's say, and it would accept it. But their portal says accept something of 1,000 words or less. So go through that and make sure all your stuff is of requirement, even with minute details. Next would be, once your portals are done, submit your scores, your TOEFL scores, your IELTS scores, or your GRE if you've taken it. Submit your scores. It takes quite some time for it to get sent over to the system. And once it's sent over to the system, it takes some time for it to get linked to your application. And if it's not linked, happened to me in 4 or 5 colleges where it wasn't linked to my profile. My score wasn't linked to my profile. So I had to email them, say, can you please link it? So that all takes time. So do that, and make sure your recommenders submit their recommendations on time. Some colleges allow that after the deadline, after the date of application deadline, we still give your recommenders 2 weeks to submit their recommendations. So I would say try not to get it out that far by approaching your recommender saying please submit it, like be behind them. But if required, make sure it's submitted within time. And all applications have something called an application checklist at the end, where it's mentioned to you that we've received your GRE score, we've received your TOEFL score, we've received your recommendation. Make sure everything is complete over there. And if you're applying for fee waivers for your particular college, make sure to get done with them as early as possible, because it takes them a lot of time to look over your profile, or if you meet the criteria, etc. So get done with that as early and make the payment. And finally, I think you'll be submitting your applications between December to March of the next year.
Yeah, thanks, Vihaan. Moving ahead with our very last question. You had mentioned that you are preparing a course to help the students to prepare for the process of applying to the universities. So could you briefly discuss your motivation behind creating this Udemy course?
Yeah, sure, Sakshi. So basically, when I was doing the whole process, everything was super, like there was a stray, I would say. There was some resources available here, some resources available there, and there was so many questions. For example, so many niche questions like who do I approach for my recommendations? Does their title matter? Or like, then when I approach recommenders, what kind of talks should I have with them, etc. Like, there's so many things that isn't even not available online. So you have to reach out to your seniors, etc. So my course that I'm creating, which is gonna be like probably titled something along the lines of a graduate application process for a Masters of Science or MEng, and even LLM students. So a friend of mine and me, it's probably going to be available within the next 2 to 3 months. You can follow me on LinkedIn, and I'll be posting when it's there, so people can apply. I think obtain it. But it's something I wished I had, having a place where all your questions are answered. Everything is answered from top to bottom would save me so much time. Having a roadmap defined for you, the early years, the later years, what you need to do. All this stuff, having it defined and understanding, okay, this is the whole picture. This is something I really wished I had. So we often have like some counselors who help students for getting into masters, etc., like that. And personally, like they definitely are doing their job getting stuff done. But I felt it was possible to get it done at a much cheaper price as well. Counselors often take like lakhs of rupees from students, and sometimes do perform up to expectation, sometimes don't perform up to expectation. So I personally didn't take any counselor. I went through the whole process myself, did the whole thing as required from the colleges. And I felt that if a student had a roadmap, had stuff defined for them, then they could be able to do it themselves rather than ask for external help. So that's one of the main reasons, because just like me, there were many students who are willing to put in the effort, but just don't know where to put the effort. It's so astray. So what we're including in our course is going to be roadmaps, early on roadmaps, later year roadmaps. How do you go ahead with that? How do you approach people for internships? How do you connect with people on LinkedIn? Where to get industry internships from? where to get research internships from, how do you approach people, how do you cold email, how do you write a publication, how do you structure it, with the importance of publications, the type of publications that are available, what masters colleges look for when it comes to publication. We are doing it from an MSMN and an NNM course, an NNM perspective. So what NNM is a master's for law. So the person who's doing with me got accepted into UC Berkeley and NYU for law. So when I was speaking to him, he also said that he faced the same issues. So we decided to come together and make a course that tackles both perspectives. We're talking about how to gain experience in your field, how to show yourself off, how to, even if you, whatever you've done on your profile, how to make it such that your strengths are highlighted. Then how to publish your work, the importance of publishing, and like other stuff. There are a bunch of things like approaching recommenders, etc. We're aiming for quite a few slides to be covered, like in the 200 plus, 100 plus range of different topics that we're planning to cover. And it's supposed to be a course that any student would be able to answer almost any of their doubts in, because we're solving any doubt, even the smallest doubt that we had, we're addressing in the course. So that's the motivation behind it, because I really wished I had something like this when I applied.
So it's the experience that you gained and the gaps that you find that are you trying to bridge it up, right?
Exactly. Whatever gap there is, we're trying to bridge that out here, right?
That's really great, Vihaan. You already covered the highlights and the key points that your course would cover. So that was really great interacting with you. So we have come to an end of a podcast. So I thank you for joining with us and sharing all the learnings and the experiences that you had with you to our audience.
That's completely fine. It was my pleasure to doing so. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you, Vihaan. Thank you so much. And we do wish you luck ahead with your journey.
Thank you, and I wish you the same.
Thank you, Vihaan.